The world of analog photography is fading. Digital cameras, from your smartphone to higher-end DSLRs, have replaced the need for that roll of film. Canadian photographer Robert Burley spent time documenting the collapse of the world of film photography and chronicles its end in his current exhibition. It's called The Disappearance of Darkness. And he joins us now here in the studio. It's good to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
This is a really beautiful book. Which is ironic because no one's going to be making books like this anymore. The Disappearance of Darkness is a series of photographs that makes photography itself the central issue. And I guess let's start with this. Why did you decide to turn the camera on itself, as it were?
Well, it started back in 2005, not too long ago, but I have to remind people that at that time I still lived in an analog world. I think most people still did. If you think about that particular time, Kodak, you know, the name that has always been synonymous with photography throughout the 20th century, was on par with Apple. You know, their stocks were trading about the same. Facebook was a brand new company. The internet was just moving from being a kind of novelty into a utility that we needed to have on a day-to-day basis. And most people still had a film camera. So in 2005, I discovered that the Kodak Canada plant, which is in the northwest part of Toronto, was going to be shut down. And on the one hand, that wasn't too much of a surprise because digital photography was really starting to take hold and people were buying less film. But on the other hand, it was kind of a shock because this was a company that had been manufacturing films and papers in Toronto for close to a century. It was a huge complex in the northwest part of the city in the Mount Dennis neighborhood. And I thought, you know, when I heard that news, I thought I better document it. I better go photograph it.
Did you get the sense you were not just photographing the end of a plant, but the end of a whole genre?
At that time, I didn't. At that time, I thought what would happen is that the larger Eastman Kodak company, which is based in Rochester, would just downsize. They would close down a few branch plants, adjust to a new reality, and carry on. But after I'd spent about a year photographing at Kodak Canada, I suddenly found myself in the heart of Kodak Canada, in the heart of the Eastman Kodak company in Rochester, New York, where they were blowing up film factories. I then started to realize that most of the other companies that had made the products I'd used my whole life, like Polaroid, Agfa, Ilford, were also going through bankruptcies and plant shutdowns, and were really disappearing at a kind of blinding speed.
At what point did you realize, I think in your words, that your camera was an antiquated Victorian contraption?
Well, that was one of the last shoots that I did at Dwayne's Photo Lab in Parsons, Kansas. And that was the last lab to process the famous Kodachrome film. And they processed the last roll on December 10th, I think it was, in 2010. So by that time, it was over, you know, about 5 or 6 years. My world had really been turned on its head. Everything had moved from a very static and physical medium, one that involved light-sensitive materials, to digital technologies, which are very fluid, very malleable, and really quite different from traditional photography.
In the book that accompanies the collection, which is at Ryerson and will be going all over all over North America in the year to come, you say that photography was once a technology, an enterprise, and an art form. As you look at those three things, technology, enterprise, and art form, fair to say that the change in technology has completely overwhelmed the other two aspects?
I think so, but I think it's temporary. I think eventually we'll catch up with the changes. I mean, you know, you try and imagine what people went through when the automobile was invented. You know, when people had to move from horses and buggies to the horseless carriage. And that was a very long transition. It probably took, 20 or 30 years. But this is something that happened in the space of 5. And it's not just the fact that we now take photographs with our phones that we carry in our pockets wherever we go. It's that we now share those photographs immediately with a global audience. That we now create. I think last estimate was 1.3 billion photographs a day, most of which are shared online through photo sharing sites. I think we are still trying to just grapple with what that means, how it changes the way we see the world, how it changes the way we see ourselves in the world, how it changes the way we relate to the world and the people around us.
If I took any picture in your book, which you have taken the good old-fashioned way,
yes,
and then somebody took the same picture with an iPhone, let's say, could you tell the difference?
If it ended up in the book, I think it would be difficult. It's getting increasingly difficult. The camera technology that we now carry around with us in these devices, we call them phones, we call them cameras, but they're just devices because they do so many different things, are really quite remarkable. And they're becoming increasingly automated to the point where we really don't have to think too much when we take a picture. We don't really have to decide the same way that we used to remember a moment, to kind of pull out our camera. Usually it was on a shelf somewhere in our house, and for example, photograph a birthday party or a family get-together or a vacation. We now take photographs without really asking why or how we're even going to use them. We can just do it because it's free and it's an effortless process.
Robert, there's lots of times in history when people saw the train coming down the tracks right at them.
Yes.
But Kodak and Polaroid didn't. And I wonder if you've figured out in your own head why that is, that they didn't see the train coming.
Well, I think any organization or business that's been doing the same thing for 100 years is in trouble these days. I think, especially if they're related to the world of media. I think that, in fact, if you delve into the kind of corporate history of Kodak, there were reports that were created in 1980 that said this was going to happen. But what was surprising was that they were not able to come up with a strategy to change quickly enough and really respond to too many changes going on at once. So
I want to pick up on your horse and carriage analogy from a few moments ago.
Yes.
Because this one feels a bit different insofar as, if you made buggy whips 110 years ago, you were in trouble. You just weren't going to be making as many buggy whips going forward. But people are taking pictures now as never before. The quantity, and you might even say the quality, of the photo that the average person can take right now is just astonishing. So have we really lost something with this transition?
Well, I mean, what I find interesting is that physical photographs, which we used to have to make physical objects to make a photograph. We don't have to do that anymore.
Right.
So those physical things that we would tuck into our mirrors in our dressing room or carry in our wallets, we really developed a kind of emotional attachment to them. They were things that really kind of acted as surrogates for people in most instances, our loved ones. We really treasured them. There's the old story of people who would flee from their burning homes. The first thing that they would grab would be their photo albums.
You say we really treasured them. On the other hand, we put them in our wallets and sat on them. And
Yes.
the pictures got crinkled and they got messy over the years.
That's right.
So, I guess we treasured them at some level, but at another level, we kind of treated them like
Well,
Not much.
I think they were physical things that we needed to have close to us.
Okay.
And we kissed them. We sometimes tore them up. You can't do any of those things with digital images.
you just push delete if you don't like something.
That's right. So I think our relationship to photography has really been changed in the last few years. I think, and I think, photographs used to be things that we made as a way to document something or record it. Now they're a kind of shared experience. They're things that are really created, shared, and kind of finished in the present within a few moments of making the image. So I think that our relationship to history, our relationship to memory is really beginning to shift in a way that it's difficult for us to understand.
I want to get inside your head a little bit more on this transition, because you basically spent your entire career using one set of tools, and then not quite overnight, but almost overnight, if you think of the grand scheme of things, we have no more dark rooms, there are no more chemicals, there are no more red safety lights, you don't have to load film into a camera anymore, you don't have to print the film anymore. All of that, you don't have to take it to the drugstore and leave it there for a week and then come back. All of that is gone, essentially. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of it left, but essentially, it is no more. What is it like for you to live through that transition, presumably realizing you're not entirely thrilled with it?
Well, I mean, I'm very glad that I did this project, because it was really a way for me to deal with that transition of having to move from one technology that I'd spent a large part of my life learning and understanding to another that is really quite new and quite radically different. I think, film and photographs will continue to exist and be used, but it'll be limited to artists and students and hobbyists. We no longer use those materials as an everyday application. The last mass market that's not quite finished its transition yet is Hollywood. Hollywood is still using film, but it expects to be finished in the next year or two. So when that last mass market is gone, I think a lot of the products that haven't disappeared yet will, because you really need a kind of economy of scale to make this technology work, to make it high quality and affordable at the same time. So when that's gone, I think it will be an interesting time.
The pictures in the book really do, as we're showing right now, they really do chronicle what looks like the end of something.
Yes.
I mean, these plants all look really quite finished, don't they? And you went all over the world. You went to the European continent, you went to the United States, you've been to Canada. Your travels took you everywhere. How come?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was a huge industry. You have to realize that this was the material that we all created pictures with, personally, collectively. It was our memory in the 20th century.
There you are in France.
So yes, that's the birthplace of photography, Chalon-sur-Saône, where the medium was invented in 1826, and Kodak had a film plant that they blew up in 2007. But this was a huge industry. It used to employ hundreds of thousands of people. It had revenue in the billions. There were a lot of plants all over the world, and it wasn't possible for me to do a kind of comprehensive survey. So I really decided to concentrate on the places and companies that I'd had a relationship with as a photographer. So I of course did Kodak in Canada, the US, and Europe. I did the Agba Gavart company, which was a kind of Kodak of Europe. I did Polaroid, which was like, Apple or Google in its day, that was based in Boston. It was a very cool and innovative company in the 70s. Declared bankruptcy in 2004 and again in 2008. And I did the Ilford company in Manchester, just outside Manchester in England. And with the exception of Polaroid, all these companies were well over a century old. They had histories that went back into the 19th century.
Can I take a guess here?
Yes.
My guess is, as you were standing there with your film camera, which you had to load and take pictures the old-fashioned way, chronicling this moment in history, there were hundreds, if not thousands, of employees doing the same thing with their smartphones.
Exactly. I mean, that was the sort of great irony of those events. Was in some instances, I think I was the only person there with a film camera, and everyone else, and most of them, at these scheduled implosions where spectators would gather to watch these enormous buildings be blown up, come down and reduced to dust in a matter of 30 seconds. In most of those instances, the crowds were made up of former employees of those companies. You know, the technology is and was irresistible. It was a great way to record events or your everyday life. So I was careful to include the crowds in my images of the implosions, because I really wanted to keep that experience of watching the people who had made this material sort of see it end.
I gather they didn't all go down in 30 seconds, right? Wasn't there one building that you needed two kicks at it?
Yes, that was, interestingly enough, that was in the birthplace of photography, where, you know, the medium seemed to refuse to die, because when they set off all the explosives in the base of the building, only a part of the building came down. And the poor Kodak executives were a little embarrassed and didn't quite know what to say. And the journalists, of course, had a field day with it, saying, you know, photography refused to die in Chalon. But they, in fact, had to schedule another implosion a couple of months later to bring that building down.
Stay of execution only delayed, not
Yes.
denied.
Yes.
In our last minute here, the title of your book is The Disappearance of Darkness. What does that mean?
Well, I mean, darkness was, you know, the thing that really defined photography, as I've known it during my lifetime. All of the materials had to be manufactured in absolute darkness. That was the unique character of these buildings that I photographed. They were windowless, mammoth structures that were filled with darkened spaces where you know, workers churned out huge rolls of this material on a daily basis. And the other element is what surprised me as a photographer was how little I knew about the process of making film when I started this project. It was kind of a secret, and it was a secret that was held on very tightly by the corporations who manufactured film. So it was those two elements, the physical and figurative darkness, that have kind of disappeared in this space of about 6 years.
We wish you well with the exhibition at Ryerson University in Toronto, and with the book, The Disappearance of Darkness, Photography at the End of the Analog Era. Robert Burley, thanks for visiting us at TVO tonight.
Thank you so much. It's been my pleasure.
Support Ontario's public television. Donate at tvo.org.